In this edition of the Bucs Daily MinuteCast, third downs is what really killed that Bucs team on Sunday. Tom Brady says the Bucs haven't played to potential through 6 weeks after Steelers' loss. And then Tom Brady getting heckled on Twitter. Let's break it all down next on this edition of the Bucs Daily MinuteCast. Keep it right here.
MinuteCast Media.
10,000!
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers MinuteCast starts right now.
Bucs on 3, 1, 2, 3, Bucs!
This is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers MinuteCast.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of the Bucs Daily MinuteCast. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms. You can find this podcast on the Bucs Report. Check them out online, bucsreport.com. You can also find this podcast on YouTube. Just search for the Bucs Daily MinuteCast. And as always, this podcast is available in audio form. Just search for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers MinuteCast and hit that follow or subscribe button. That way you will know when the new podcasts are available. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Bucs MinuteCast. So in this edition, we talk about the Bucs' lackluster performance on Sunday as they lose by a score of 18-20 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now the Bucs are at 500. And with this being the last season of the Tom Brady on the Buccaneers, there's a lot of questions that remain to be answered and asked. It was one of those trap games. And, you know, to be honest with you, the Steelers came at the Buccaneers with both barrels. And at the end of the day, the Buccaneers were not able to stand up and tell them, we don't have what it takes, to take on this team here. And it was kind of one of those moments that you're wondering, did Tom Brady do the right thing coming back? That is one of the questions that needs to be asked here. So we'll take a look at one of the videos here. Sorry, I had a little bit of technical issues there. With Tom Brady lit up as he was yelling at Hainsey here. I think that they're starting to internalize it. The O-line has got a lot of grief. So let's take a look here one moment. All right, that function is not working. But basically, if I was going to summarize what was going on there, it was Tom Brady yelling at Hainsey saying, let's go, let's get going. And then there was the one thing during the game where he got in his face and said, what are we doing? What are we doing? And there's a lot of questions that need to be answered on this team. As we head into this season, I mean, this isn't just the beginning of the season. The NFL season is very short. So, just for them to kind of come out there with a lackluster performance is less than ideal. You take a look at how many games they have left. They had kind of a tough schedule, but, most people looked at this team and thought, this should be a slam dunk. The Bucs taking on a Steelers team that hasn't played that great. This on Twitter, Rick Stroud says, Tom Brady isn't playing his best football. His job is to score points. Many of his throws were short of wide receiver Sunday. He hit less than 50% in the first half. Plenty of blame on 12. And, it's kind of like this internal combustion thing that's going on where Brady is blaming his O-line. And I think that at the end of the day, maybe he's a bit frustrated in himself that he's not connecting on these passes. But it was a frustrating game to watch where it just seems like the Bucs never truly caught momentum. So they really need to hope for a better performance when they play the Panthers. Leonard Fournette says things will get worse before they get better, but when they do, just remember who put you down and who helped you up. And I really hope that's the case. I hope that, in fact, the Bucs team can turn it around, because as it stands right now, this is not the Bucs playing the best football that I've seen. All right, next here, this is a story in The Athletic. Bucs takeaways, third down killed Tampa Bay on both sides of the ball. And so true. And it's something that's been spoke of in this podcast, and all the talking heads is being able to convert on third down into first down. They've struggled on it all season. The passing game's not there. They rely heavily on the run game, which is always, not 100%. Leonard Fournette is out there doing his best, but he can only do so much. Against a lesser opponent, an NFL team might be able to overcome a bad game on third down for one side of the ball or the other. But as was the case for the Bucs in Sunday's loss to the Steelers, a bad night on both sides can lead to a wildly disappointing loss. Let's start on the defense, which had showed problems on third and long in last week's 25-15 win over the Falcons, allowing Atlanta to convert 3 third downs of 9 yards or longer, also giving up 10 yards on a 3rd and 11 and set up a conversion on 4th and 1. Again, this was a Steelers team that was not favored to win this game. If you listen to a lot of the different Bucs podcasts, they said that, they should be able to go into Pittsburgh and, wipe the field with them. That was not the case. Against Pittsburgh, it got much worse, especially in the second half. The Steelers converted on 3rd and 11 or longer 4 times, including 3 times in the fourth quarter. Across the NFL this season, entering Sunday's games, teams converted on 3rd and 11 or longer an average of 11.6%. Or less than once every 8 tries. Pittsburgh did it 3 times in a row with the game on the line. Add in the 3rd and 11 in which they gave up 10 yards, followed by a 4th and 1 conversion. And in the last 2 games, the Bucs defense had 9 situations in which the opponent was 3rd and 9 or worse, but ultimately kept the drive alive and moved the chains. So there is a ton of blame to be assessed on the O-line, the defensive line, everything. It's almost like this Bucs team is unrecognizable from the year they won the Super Bowl. And Todd Bowles said one of the things, the players that are on this team living on former glory better get over it, because you won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, but that really means nothing right now. It means nothing that you have Tom Brady out there. It means nothing that you have Evans and Godwin if you can't win a fucking football game. And they weren't able to do it. And, you hate to get worked up on it, but this was a season that seemed to be a slam dunk, and the Bucs are blowing it, and they don't have a lot of time to turn things around here. And, like I talked about, it seems like they're starting to internalize. You got Brady yelling at his players on the sideline saying, you're not doing this, you're not doing that right. When in fact, he is not. His passes are not connecting. They're falling short in many cases or off. He's blaming them that they're not running the right routes. But this Bucs team, like I said, they have not a lot of time to get it together. They played a Steelers team that was not that great. Like I talked about in the last podcast, if you're going to win the grand prize, you've got to beat really great teams. And if you can't win games against teams that are poor, then the outlook is not that great unless they can find a way to turn it around. Perhaps being down 3 defensive backs, safeties Logan Ryan and Mike Edwards, and cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting has contributed to that inability to get off the field. But that brings us to the Bucs offense, which faced a Steelers defense Sunday that was without top 3 cornerbacks and top safety Minkah Fitzpatrick, all sidelined by injury. So you can start kind of crossing, the excuses off the list. Why do I say that? Because the Steelers they weren't playing with some of their top players. So to say, that the Steelers had some sort of advantage because, we had some injured Bucs, well, they can easily point to a bunch of injured players that they have on their team as well. The Bucs offense was just as consistently bad in third and anything close to long as the defense as well. Overall, Tampa Bay converted just 4 times out of 14 third downs, which is less than 30% if you're doing math at home. But 3 of those conversions came on 3rd and 2 or less, the other on a 3rd and 4. So when needing anything more than 4 yards to move the chains, they went 0 for 6 against a depleted defense. Brady targeted receiver Chris Godwin 3 times on 1st, 5, and 3rd down throws, throwing incomplete all 3 times. And he didn't try Godwin again on a 3rd down until the last one of the game, gaining 10 yards on a 3rd and 11. For the game, Brady was just 4 for 9 for 36 yards on 3rd down, while Pittsburgh quarterback was a combined 8 for 12 for 103 yards. So let's kind of, get into the weeds. Let's pontificate. Let's guess what's going on with Tom Brady Is it his shoulder? Is it that bum finger manifesting itself? What is going wrong? Or has Father Time showed up in front of his face and said, I'm coming for you, Brady. No more. You're too old for this. I guess it remains to be seen. It just seems like Brady's not locked in. Does it have something to do with his personal life with Giselle? You could go on forever about excuses of what's wrong with Brady, the biggest thing, and the Bucs. It's really hard to say, what's going wrong here, but what we do hope is that the Bucs can turn it around. In this next segment here, we'll talk about Tom Brady says Bucs haven't played it to potential through 6 weeks after Steelers loss. This was a story in the Bleacher Report. They talked about Tom Brady still believes the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have another gear to hit following their 20-18 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday. Brady told reporters after the games the Bucs didn't earn it and are all playing less than we're capable of. And I hate to disparage the GOAT, the greatest of all time, but he, in fact, has not lived up to his potential. If you've been listening to this show, I rattled off a bunch of stats where Tom Brady fell short. So I think that there's an equal blame that can go around this entire team. You can't point to one thing. If I had to pick one thing, I would say that the offensive line has been quite horrible. It's put Brady under pressure right away. And it just seems like, the Bucs are starting to be more predictable. The plays that they run, they like to run the blitz a lot. They have countermeasures in place to combat that. The Bucs have really got to take the snow globe and shake it up a little bit and try something different. One could argue the problems start with Brady in the offense. Entering week 6, Tampa Bay was 3rd in defense efficiency, but 13th in offensive efficiency per Football Outsiders. Once again, the Buccaneers were leaning on their defense to win the day as they allowed 270 total yards to the Steelers, yet gained only 304 themselves. Brady finished 25 of 40 for 243 yards and 1 touchdown. Through 6 starts, his 275.3 yards per game are on pace to be his lowest since 2019. The 45-year-old's frustration has been evident at times this season, and on Sunday he gave his offensive line an earful. And again, I'm having issues playing the video there, but if you watch the game, you see Hainsey, you see Wirfs, and he is just giving them an earful. Is that the right tactic to take? You could argue that that's just going to make them shut down. That's going to make them not play as well. And considering the fact that Brady himself has not played that well, how would they take it if they started yelling at him, saying, why aren't you playing up to your potential? I think that, oftentimes when you're an athlete performing to a high level and then all of a sudden you start to see declines, you start to play the blame game. It's not me. It's not my decline. It's what you guys are doing wrong. So I think that Brady needs to look internally as well, take a look in the mirror. And, can he fix his game? What is going on? Is it his shoulder? Is it his finger? Is it just him being old? There's a lot of things to question. We don't have a lot of time to look for answers. In 2020, Tampa Bay headed into the bye at 7-5. The team didn't look like a true contender, and the Brady experiment wasn't yielding its expected returns. Then the Bucs won 8 straight games, a run that ended in a Super Bowl triumph, though they fell short in the divisional round while attempting to defend their championship in 2021. They had a similar hot streak to end the regular season with 7 wins in their final 8 games. You would have gone broke long ago if you bet against Brady whenever his back was perceived to be up against the wall. Tampa has 4 more games before it's off in week 11. If the team is continuing to hover around 500 by mid-November, then it might be time to start panicking. When is it time for me to start panicking? Well, everyone talked about that this game against the Steelers was a slam dunk. There's no way that the Bucs should not be able to beat them. What's next? The Carolina Panthers, memory serves, like 1-5, something like that. If they cannot take down the Panthers team, then go ahead and find that panic button and start pushing it as hard as you can. And if you don't do it, I will. Because if you can't beat the shit show that's going on in Carolina, then you really have issues and you might want to reconsider your perception of things. All right, in the next segment here, Tom Brady, it just keeps going. It keeps rolling. This negativity that swirls around this team is effervescent. Tom Brady mocked on Twitter as Bucs fall to shorthanded Steelers, dropped to 3-3, which is 500. So what does this Bucs team have to do? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost to the Steelers 20-18 on Sunday. 7-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady had a rough outing, completing just 25 of 40. Chris Godwin was Tampa's leading receiver with 6 catches for 95 yards. Mike Evans caught 4 passes for 42 yards. Brady, who finished with an 87.8 passer rating, was mocked and ripped on Twitter by NFL fans following the loss. Just a couple of them. No idea why Tom Brady wanted to participate in this NFL season. The only explanation that makes sense is that he got mad at Schefter, scooped him, and he didn't want to get to announce his retirement with some dumb video. I'm 100% in on that. That is from Alex on Twitter. This person named Sophia on Twitter said, "Did Tom Brady break a tablet today?" Russell on Twitter says, "We are witnessing the downfall of Tom Brady." Max on Twitter says, "Hey, at Tom Brady," and then they play a meme video with Trubisky. Balls to the Wall Sports on Twitter says, "Tom Brady just lost to the Steelers team without the 3 starting cornerbacks. Micah Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt, and their starting QB gets injured halfway through. He's washed." Wave God on Twitter says, "Tom Brady should have just retired if you're going to play like this." Trent Elmore says, "Tom Brady should have stayed retired." Jake says, "Someone tell Tom Brady to retire." And Peartree Avashti says, "Tom Brady is truly horrible, should have just stayed retired." The Buccaneers are now tied with the Atlanta Falcons for the first in the NFC South, which is something no one saw coming. Entering the season, Brady and the Bucs offense have a lot to figure out. If they don't sort things out quickly, they could end up with a low playoff seed or miss the postseason altogether. Are you kidding me? This is a Bucs team that, everyone said that was poised in a great position. They took a look at all the moves they made in the offseason and stacked in this position and that position. And what happened? What started all the wheels in motion? Ryan Jensen getting injured. That was the big thing. Losing big players, Justin Pierre-Paul in the offseason, losing Ndamukong Suh, or not Ndamukong Suh. They lost a bunch of different players in the offseason. Yeah, Ndamukong Suh. I thought I said Vita Vea there at first, but Ndamukong Suh, a big player that they lost. They lost Rob Gronkowski. You can't replace someone like Rob Gronkowski. It's a replacement by committee. So you take 3 huge players that I just brought up there. That's just off the top of my head. I'm recording this live. And they're not easy plug and play. Tristan Wirfs has done an admirable job filling in out there. But, I think that you're starting to see the cracks get wider with Ryan Jensen missing. Is Hainsey ultimately the guy for center? Should the Bucs go out and pick up that big name center out there? Would that be enough? That's not going to fix Tom Brady throwing short passes. That's not going to fix the inefficiency at the offensive line. That's not going to fix the inefficiencies on the defensive line. Wide receivers not running the right routes. Oh my, there's so many things to consider. And again, you can kind of resound and hear what those people on Twitter are saying. Is this why Tom Brady came back? Is this why he risked his marriage to Giselle over this to come back on a Bucs team that, let's be honest, at this point is pretty horrible. And, I know they're at 500. It's not like they have not won a game all season, but if this season continues the way that it did, is there issues with Todd Bowles as the head coach? Byron Leftwich, who is the person? If you pay any attention on Twitter, you hear the talking heads and the armchair quarterback saying we need Bruce Arians back. Well, that's not going to happen. And how much of this goes on Todd Bowles? It's hard to say. I'm not at the meetings. I'm not at the practices. I don't know what's going on there, but suffice is to say this Bucs team needs to get more production. They need to figure it out. Tom Brady needs to get more in sync. What was one of the things that he was goofed on is that he went to a wedding over the weekend with the Patriots owner. He missed practice. Some people are speculating that he's out of sync because he's missing all these practices. Should Tom Brady have been missing a practice when his team has been playing as poor as it's been this season? That is something to ponder. That is something for Bucs fans to ponder. You got to think about, would he be more in step? Then you also kind of rewind the tape a little bit more and look at practice mini camps where he missed a bunch of games when he went down with his wife down to an island and they vacationed together. Should he have missed that time? There's plenty of blame that could be assessed. And if you're a conspiracy theorist, you could go crazy as to why this Bucs team is not playing well. The answers do not come as easy. as you're watching this show or listening to it, what are some of the things that the Bucs need to do to fix their position that they're in? Hit me up on Twitter, DanCaps218, and let me know what you think this Bucs team needs to do to right the ship. This is the last season with Brady on the Bucs. This is the last season with Brady in the NFL. Who are they going to have at QB next year? That is an interesting question. Is Trask going to fix these problems? Is Gabbert going to fix these problems? Is a quarterback that they may pick up in free agency or trade for, is that going to fix the problem? You're looking at some lean years coming up ahead if this Bucs team doesn't figure it out, because Brady is just part of the equation. We know right now that this is the last season with Brady at the helm on the Buccaneers. We know that, unless he does something totally crazy and does an about face. But as it stands right now, he's going to ride off into the sunset being a football analyst or commentator, whatever the case may be. And honestly, who knows how long that's going to be. I think that, his wife saying that you're away from home too much is going to kind of take its toll on him, and he's going to have a come to Jesus moment, thinking, is this risk worthing my ruining my relationship with my wife, Giselle, for being a football commentator? Is it worth it for playing football? I have 7 Super Bowl rings. What in the hell am I doing out here? Did I come back to play on a team that is lackluster, a team where I'm underperforming? My wide receivers are injured, and now some of them are coming back. My O-line sucks. My D-line sucks. What needs to get done? Again, hit me up on Twitter at DanCaps218. I want to hear your thoughts. What does this Bucs team have to do to right this ship? Again, we don't have a lot of time to figure it out and dig into the weeds here. They're running out of time. And being at 500, I don't think that many people really thought that they were going to be in this position. So it's a tough thing going forward here. And that's what I'm looking for, is answers. At the end of the day, I am just a fan of the team like everyone else. And, sometimes when you look at these tough questions, it's hard to find answers and what the things that they need to do. But this has been the Bucs MinuteCast for today. It's 22:06 is how long I'm recording, a little bit longer than usual, but a little bit of venting, a little bit of ranting and raving here. And this is the beauty of live recording here. So apologies for the technical issues that I had earlier. But again, this is all recorded live and shot out to the internet. There's no production after the fact. So once again, thank you for joining me on this edition of the Bucs Daily MinuteCast. If there's one thing that I can say about this team, hopefully they can find a way to turn things around here. I'm not waving the white flag and saying that it's all over here. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that they don't have a lot of time to fix what's ailing this team. How are they going to get Brady in lockstep? How are they going to get him, hitting his targets? How is the offensive line going to stand in and make sure that Brady's not under pressure right away? A lot of questions that need to be answered, and then the defense as well. I can beat this into the ground. I can beat this dead horse as much as you want. You are the fans out there. You watched the game. You saw it was a shit show. The question now is, what do they have to do to fix it? So, all right. Once again, thank you for joining me on this edition of the Bucs Daily MinuteCast. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. I hope the next time I do one of these ones, I have more positive things to report, because it is so much more exciting to talk about this great Bucs team and how well they're doing. I really hope that's the case. All right, guys, I'll talk to you again next time.